Hey everyone, C4 Sages here. Welcome back to the channel. In this video today, I'm going to be talking about my impressions of the first Berserker Khazan demo that came out not too long ago. I want to say it's only been out for maybe a couple of weeks. And yeah, this was a game that I was kind of loosely following here and there when it was first announced. I thought it looked really interesting and I was definitely curious about it. And yeah, we finally got to play the demo, and I gotta say, this demo definitely packs a punch. But before we talk about the rest of my impressions, if you would like to see more on the first Berserker Khazan on this channel, definitely subscribe so the next time that I do talk about the first Berserker Khazan, or if there's any videos, playthroughs, or anything like that, you will be the first to be notified. It also helps out the channel, greatly helps me get more on the algorithm. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, leave a comment below, let me know, did you get a chance to play this game, and what were your thoughts on it? Anyways, thank you so much. Let's get back to the impressions. Alright, so the first Berserker Khazan, what can I say about this game? Well, what even is this game? The best way I can describe the first Berserker Khazan is, it's obviously a Souls-lite game. It has Souls-lite elements. You get your currency from defeating enemies, you have your usual bonfire, which is actually kind of cool. It's kind of in the form of this, like, broken sword that kind of loosely reminds me of Soul Edge from the Soul Calibur / Soul Edge series. And in terms of design, that was one of the biggest driving forces for me personally, which was we're playing with this character who honestly reminds me of Siegfried from Soul Calibur, and I love the Soul Calibur games, and Siegfried was always a character that I would play consistently in those games. And the story and the character very much remind me of him. If you're someone who loves Soul Calibur and maybe loves that character, I think that this game might be for you. You finally get to experience that character in kind of a Souls-lite game. But this game is not just a Souls-like, or light rather, sorry. It kind of reminds me of Neo as well, in terms of you can use different weapons, you kind of the way you sort of engage the characters, or the enemies I should say. It very much reminds me of Neo. Now, the thing with Neo is that Neo had a lot of different gameplay mechanics from all the different stances that you can do and all the defensive mechanics and stuff like that. This game, in my opinion, while it does have some elements of Neo, it kind of reminds me of like what a typical kind of Souls-lite is these days, which is it relies on perfect dodging and it relies on parrying, and you are going to be doing both of those things quite a bit. But I think what I really liked about it is that there was definitely some enemies that were more susceptible to getting parried, and that there were some enemies that were more susceptible to getting perfect dodged. I really enjoyed this demo. And why did I enjoy it? I think I enjoyed it because navigating through it, you got a variety of all of these different enemies, from your sort of common enemies that have like bow and arrows and shield weapons, and then you have these bigger enemies who have like these big attacks and do all this damage, and they're very much kind of like they're the walls before you get to the next part of the stage that you're in. The combat of this game also flows really well. I really enjoyed the defensive mechanics, and in comparison to like some of the games that came out recently, like Stellar Blade or even like a Wukong or something like that, I feel like the combat flows really naturally in this game. Even I'd argue even a little bit smoother than like a Lies of P. Like when you parry in this game, it really does feel like a true parry, and perfect dodging was a lot of fun. I just really liked and enjoyed how you engage with the enemies in this game. And in my opinion, it's probably the strongest part of this game, right? With all Souls-lite games, obviously, the combat has to be interesting, in my opinion. It can't just be solely one-dimensional. And at the start of the demo, it's gonna feel kind of one-dimensional, right? You're kind of just taking turns. You gotta dodge, and you have to make sure, you only have so much of your Estus, or in this case, the essence that your character has. It really starts to become more interesting when you finally get different weapons, and you start to get skill trees, which, in my opinion, I feel like Souls-lite games really start to become more interesting when they have skill trees, because now your offense and the way that you navigate your character with the weapons that you have start to get expanded, and the combat starts to become less one-dimensional in my opinion. And in terms of the weapons, you can dual wield in this game. You can use a great sword. There, I believe, was a staff, kind of like a lance, that you can use. Or no, it wasn't a lance. Sorry, it was kind of like a sword staff that he kind of uses with one hand, which was a lot of fun. And you obtain them by doing like these trials, which is basically this, like, you know, here you have this weapon, figure out how to use it on the fly, or figure out how it feels. And I thought that was really cool. I thought that was a great way to kind of showcase, you know, the different types of weapons that you're going to get in this game. I don't know if it's just going to be 3 different weapons that you get, because the demo only allowed you to use 3 different weapons, but there is a boss in this game that showcases a whole bunch of weapons. I won't talk too much about the boss because I kind of want you to experience who I'm talking about. He is the last boss of this demo, and this demo is, I don't want to say it's super long, but you know, you could definitely play a good chunk of it if you want to. I think I spent roughly maybe 2.5 hours, maybe even close to 3 hours playing this thing. And I gotta say, I had a great time kind of going through it and going through the world and stuff like that. There was a few moments that were kind of confusing in terms of like some of the level design. When you're in the snowy fields, there's some areas where like it's hard to tell if an area is safe, because there's definitely some traps, meaning some of the areas that you step through, they're like not secure, and if you step through it, you're going to fall and die to your death. But for the most part, man, I had a great time with this game, and although I am ready for more companies to kind of start stepping a little bit away from the Souls-like genre, I can still appreciate when a company kind of does it right, and the kind of the best ways. And in my opinion, this game really shines for its combat and the way you engage with the enemies. And the enemies are really good too. They offer some really cool attacks, which again is more akin to like a Neo in my opinion. The way they kind of, you know, in Neo, those characters can do, the enemies rather, the world enemies, they can do so much more with their weapons. And I feel like I got a chance to really experience that in this demo, in my opinion. So I don't know. I thought it was super interesting. I thought it was a lot of fun, and the bosses in this game, or this demo rather, were super fun in my opinion. The way that you engage with them, because they were difficult, and I appreciate that they weren't like super easy, and like you can just kind of exploit this one mechanic that your character has or whatever. And yeah, like the first boss that you run into, which is like this big like frozen yeti, it was super engaging, super fun. It was super tough, and in my opinion, I feel like good Souls like games make the bosses difficult but give you enough tools to kind of deal with them, and in kind of a balanced way in my opinion. And I really had to like make sure I conserve my stamina bar and make sure that I was dodging in the right place, or, you know, instead of relying so much on dodging, maybe I should parry more, or if I'm parrying too much, should I just do some more dodging and stuff like that. So the game, again, very much encourages you to try out all of the mechanics. And once you open up the skill trees, man, that's, again, like I said, that's when the game really, in my opinion, starts to open up, because now you get all of these like follow-up attacks that your character can do. You can run and do an attack and then do a follow-up attack. There's these like air attacks that you can do. Now, keep in mind, you can't launch an enemy in the air and start doing like Devil May Cry / Ninja Gaiden stuff on them. That's not what this game is by any means. But there is some really cool stuff from like charged attacks that you can do, and like it lets off like these like red demonic effects that your character has based on the demon that's like kind of controlling him right now. And really the only criticism that I have about this game in terms of the combat would have to be that there's no like immediate weapon switching. So like there's not like this toggle, you know, on the D-pad or something like that, where if I want to play dual weapons or dual blades, or if I want to play with my staff or something like that and then go back to greatsword, I think that would have made the combat a little bit more engaging in my opinion. I think if we could like switch weapons on the fly, like the sheer amount of ideas and creativity that you can kind of conjure up from that could have been really cool. I didn't like that I had to stop the engagement with certain enemies and bosses if I wanted to use a different weapon. It's kind of one of those things where it's like you could do it, but like you have to pause, and there is no like traditional pause menu in this game. It is a Souls Lite, so obviously, you know, there's a pause menu where, you know, everything is still happening in the background, so like you have to wait until enemies are done engaging with you for you to actually switch your weapon or switch your gear and stuff like that. So that's like maybe the only criticism that I have, as far as like, it's not really something I enjoyed. It does make sense if you're fighting certain enemies like that boss that I'm like reluctant to like really talk about, because I really want you to experience it yourself. I was using Greatsword for a while, and then eventually I was like, man, Greatsword is not really working for me. Let me try a different weapon. And then I tried the dual weapons, and the fight was considerably a lot more fair, and it was easier to navigate. And so yeah, I would say if there's any chance in the future, if it's like a future mechanic that they're gonna open up and eventually have in the game, I would love that, because in my opinion, that's where you add more creativity to some of the cool stuff that you can do with the combat in this game. Also, our character is voiced by Ben Starr, and for those who don't know who Ben Starr is, he was the voice of Clive in Final Fantasy 16, and most recently he reprised that role in Tekken 8 as a guest character. But so it was kind of weird hearing like Clive's voice or Ben's voice in this game, because it's kind of exactly the same, to be honest with you. But it was still a nice addition. It in some ways it kind of makes the game even feel a little bit more, I'll say, expensive. I know it's like, well, wait, so you're saying that a voice actor can make a game more expensive? And you know, a lot of times it's like, yeah, it kind of makes the experience a little bit different, because you're hearing a voice that's like so recognizable. But fundamentally, he you know, I do wish he kind of like made the character a little bit more complex, but his voice is just so good. It's so deep. And but anyways, that's more of a sidebar thing. But yeah, man, I don't want to like say too much about like everything that was in this particular demo. All I can say is that if you are someone who really enjoys Souls-like games, and if you're someone who loves those Soul Calibur games, or maybe the Grand Blue games, or again, if you're someone who's played Dungeon Fighter Online or knows a lot about that story, I highly recommend this game. Even if you're not a big fan of those things, but like you're someone who really enjoys Souls-like games, I think this game might be for you, because in my opinion, it has the one thing that I think a lot of Souls-like games don't have, which is flow to the game that some of those games kind of miss. Like, this game, in terms of its flow, felt so good. It felt so natural. It wasn't stiff. Is what I'm trying to say. The combat of the game, you know, from the cool hit stun that the game has, to the way that you can like cancel certain moves into other moves, it was a lot of fun. And that's why I think I'm comparing it a lot to Nioh, because Nioh was one of those Souls-like games that it kind of had that flow to its combat as well. It wasn't as stiff as, say, like a Lies of P, although I love Lies of P. That game at times could get a little bit stiff with its, you know, with its offensive mechanics, and I think a little bit of the same with like Wukong and to some degree Stellar Blade. But yeah, man, I really enjoyed this game. I'm actually really looking forward to it when it eventually comes out. I don't know if I'm gonna play it when it comes out right away, because I will be playing Monster Hunter. However, again, I think, again, if you are someone who's a fan of those games and some of the things that I listed earlier, I definitely recommend for this game to be kind of on your playlist this year. Anyways, thank you all so much. If you made it to the end of the video, I really do appreciate it. And if you liked the commentary, and if you liked this video, please leave a like down below. And again, let me know in the comments, have you played this game, or is this game that you were just kind of waiting to hear more impressions and you're gonna try it out? I definitely recommend it, and I think it's a demo. Like, it's free to play. There's no strings attached. Definitely go try it out, and let me know what you think in the comments below. And yeah, guys, as always, my name is C4Sages, and I'll see y'all next time.